All right, welcome back to the channel. If you're here, probably not here. Anyway, so in this video, I'm going to talk about metaphysics a little bit. Now, a lot of people that I listen to, they have different metaphysical views than me, obviously. But of some of the more interesting metaphysical views are the people that kind of don't believe in time. Now, I've been reading some of David Icke's book, and I got to be honest, because I've heard his lectures before, the metaphysics part isn't really the most interesting part to me, because I've heard a lot of his lectures before and read his books before, so I kind of know the metaphysics of that. But also, listening to like Terence McKenna lectures, Quantum of Conscious, he's also like a non-time believer. And there's a couple other people too that don't believe in time. So I just wanted to ask the question, can you uncrack an egg? Because that to me is kind of like my standard of if you can reverse time. Because like all the other stuff, like the grandfather paradox and all these other freaking things, like what's his name, Heimlin, his time travel paradox book or movie. I saw the movie, but I guess it was a book. It's pretty interesting. It's kind of similar to like the looper time paradox, where it's like an infinite loop of like you sending information from the future back to the past and from the past to the future. And I mean, to me, it always seems like a paradox. Now, of course, I am aware of the fact that, information technically can be sent back in time through, what's it called? Quantum, which quantum theory is it now? Oh, superposition. So we're like two atoms that are, or two protons or neutrons or whatever, that are in completely different parts of the universe can communicate with each other. But they've also tried a bunch of experiments to see if they could actually get it to communicate in like a pattern where they could affect the pattern, and they weren't able to do that. So the whole like mirror universe and retrocausality thing is definitely still a theory similar to the multiverse, where it's like very difficult to test these theories because of the universe that we live in specifically, right? And as far as like the transcendental object at the end of time, it's like, okay, if God exists, then God does transcend time, so he would be at the beginning of time and the end of time too, right? So that kind of makes sense. But I think I'm just talking about on a human like physics level, like can time actually be reversed within the like universe, right? Can things go back in time, right? And to me, the like mirror universe type of retrocausality that is accepted as a theory in physics seems more to me about the theoretical idea that if you knew, it's the same thing as that other energy theory, where it's like if you knew the exact position of every single molecule and the exact spin and energy and what's it called, velocity and trajectory of every single subatomic particle in the universe, that you could somehow then make it go backwards the other way because you could push it back into the exact same position. Basically, it's like reverse determinism is like what I'm trying to get at here, I guess. It's like a reverse determinism, but like you got to understand the amount of energy that would require. And since it would take all the energy in the universe just to create the universe, because the universe contains 100% of the energy in the universe, so where's the outside energy going to come from? To locate every single subatomic particle in the universe, its spin, position, rotation, velocity, trajectory, and then push it back the other way. right? The mirror universe kind of makes more sense because it's like at the Big Bang, one universe went forward and one went backwards, but it still doesn't make sense. What do you mean one went forward and one went backwards? Because if they both started at the same place, I can see them being mirror opposites of each other, but not one going forward and one going backwards. All right. So here is the scientific backing for what I'm talking about. I'm talking about chemical bonds, right? And specifically like covalent bonds, which are here, right here, where basically it's that, the protons or electrons of one atom get sucked into the protons of another atom, and they're bonded together through the weak nuclear force and the magnetic force. So when you're talking about nuclear force, you're going to need nuclear force to make, so like, say you just the shell of an egg, right? When that cracks and all those nuclear bonds are broken, right? And let's say you like actually smash the egg on the floor and it's like broken to like 50 pieces, 60 pieces, right? Then you have to be able to somehow get the nuclear chemical bonds to go back together. That's why you can't just like crack an egg and then put it back together on the counter and it like form back into a whole eggshell. And that's just like a thin eggshell, right? So if you imagine all the matter in the universe, that you gotta somehow get enough energy to replace and reverse all the like covalent bonds and everything in the universe to get it to go in reverse, right? Every piece of glass that broke, every piece of metal that was smelted, right, and moved to some other place from where it was, every tree that was chopped down and shredded into paper and then reformatted and recycled and turned into paper mache and then put back together again into another piece of paper and then shredded and chopped down again and mashed back up again and then turned into toilet paper and then put down into the sewer and then dissolved in there. And then, you see what I'm saying? Like, where are you going to get the energy to do all that? How are you going to reverse all that? Right? How are you going to reverse every sheep that was shorn and then their wool sewn into sweaters and then shipped all over the world and are worn by people? And then those people, like, wore out the sweater until it had holes in it, got shredded, then used it as a rag until that disintegrated, and then buried it somewhere outside in a landfill, right? But you're going to reverse all that. And then the entire universe, right, being formed. But I guess if you don't believe in that, well, you probably don't even believe that space exists. Let's keep it real. If you don't believe in time, you probably don't actually believe that space exists either, in the traditional sense that, most astronomers believe in space. So, but just from those things on Earth, right? Like all the diamonds that were cut, right? Like you see how hard a diamond is compared to an eggshell, right? And then you gotta find all the diamond dust that was shredded off from every diamond that was cut, and then reverse all the covalent bonds, right? And all the iron ore. I already said the wood. I guess water, you don't have to worry about that because that just evaporates and then condensates. So that water's good. Water's good, right? And then so it's like all that stuff. And then the stuff that was like, thousands of years ago, that existed thousands and thousands of years ago, that was eaten and recycled, and then that animal was eaten by another animal, and then that animal was eaten by another animal, and then that animal got eaten by another animal for thousands and thousands of years. But then you're going to reverse all that somehow through some type of what? Like, what's the mechanism that can reverse all that? Unless you're just going to be like, well, just magic, like a a chess player God type of situation where God can just, or whatever type of supernatural being you believe in, that can just erase all that and just, oh, that didn't happen. Like I guess if you believe in that, then you can believe anything, really. There's no point even having a debate with you. Yeah. Because I mean, if you believe that where it's just like, well, reality could just be that some supernatural being just went and like everything that we knew for thousands and thousands of years, that stuff's not real anymore, and now the new thing is real. And we don't even remember the old thing, the Mandela effect, whatever, right? I mean, if that's the case, then there's no debate, right? Because we won't remember, unless you're, I guess. But that's what makes you special, because you're the special person that does remember. Because I definitely don't. I definitely didn't get the Mandela effect or whatever, so I'm on the outside of that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not saying specifically like that's that hubris. I'm like, it is understandable, but you also have to see it from my perspective that, you know, when someone's making a special claim and then they're making a claim about the entire world, that the entire world is false and that they have the evidence that the world is false, but the one catch is that only they're the only special and privileged person that can actually see the changes, and everyone else has to rely on their judgment because the other people aren't like gifted special in that, you know, it's a special pleading, right? In a debate where I'm the specific person, the only specific person that's privy to this knowledge, so you have to take it on my word. Because part of the reason why you can't understand what I'm saying is because you're not a special person that's privy to the knowledge that I have. So then it kind of nullifies the debate, right? Because if I don't have the Mandela effect, I can't ever verify what you're saying, right? And I just have to believe you. Just like any other religion, right? I just have to believe, and it's even worse because you specifically are the specific person, the same person that's making the claims about reality that everyone else is lacking in their gnosis of reality. And then also at the same time, you're the only person with the privilege to be able to see the true reality. So I have to believe you, right? And then, you know, so it's like, of course, and then you give yourself the way so you don't have to explain how to like reverse covalent bonds, because it's just one of those like fairy magic wand waving sound things, right? Where it just happens, and, you know, but that's my question to that is then why do sometimes things get missed? If something has that much power over reality where it can just and like change all of history, all of everything, but then they forgot one VHS tape in some guy's closet in the 80s, or they forgot one artist like copy of some drawing that they did, right, where they wrote the name of the movie in the correct way, right? I mean, it's such a specialized, you know, like thing where it's like, and if there's only a small group of people that can see these things, and everyone else like me, like I'm not special, right? I don't have this like privileged knowledge of the whatever things that these other people can see. So it's hard for me to understand, right? It's hard for me to understand how you can prove or disprove the like covalent bond thing. And then the other thing about just like the historical consumption, where it's like thousands and thousands of years of consumption of animals eating each other and chopping down trees and breaking rocks and doing all this stuff, and then it getting converted into the animal, and then the animal being eaten by another animal, and then that thing being converted into something else, like a tree or a plant, and then that plant being eaten by another animal, and then that animal eating another animal, and then that growing into a tree, and then someone building a house out of it, and then that house getting burnt down, and then, you know, that's a lot of sets of covalent bonds and then you have to locate every single subatomic particle down to like the quarks and all that other stuff, and then hit them with the precise amount of energy from somewhere else outside the universe to get them all to bounce back into place and replace the nuclear bonds, the weak nuclear bonds, right? In the exact position, going back through history, like uncracking an egg, right? Just like uncracking an egg or something. It's super simple, right? Or you can just do the hand waving and just say that it's just magic, some form of supernaturalism, right? But that you can't explain because only privileged people can even see what's going on with it. So like I'm saying, that's my take on it. I mean, I can understand how it, in certain senses, like if you're saying that it is just magic in a certain sense and it's unexplainable in a certain sense, then I just have to accept, because there's no way to debate against something that is unfalsifiable, right? If it's if there's no way to prove it, and the only way to even know that exists is by the person that's making the claim that they have special knowledge. I mean, ask yourself. I mean, most of the time people won't accept that as an argument, right? Well, hey, I can see something that you can't see, so you have to act or do something or think something this way, but I don't have to present any evidence. Why? Because only I can see the evidence. You can't see the evidence. So, I don't know. Maybe you can uncrack an egg. So with that, I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching the video. If you did, if you didn't, let's keep it real. You probably didn't. So have a good day and peace.